So today I can tell you that I told you so. Back in October, November, I warned about Trump as being a Russian asset. I cited to a number of authorities, Craig Unger, Luke Harding, and others. And there are a lot of other authorities. There's David K. Johnson, who's written books about Trump and Putin. Max Boot even did something back in 2019 about Trump being an asset. But aside from all that talk, all that discussion, the reality is the proof is in the pudding. You can take a look at Trump's, I was going to say Putin's uh, actions. I mean, Trump is basically advancing Putin's interests. And you can take a look at what Trump has done in the last 5 weeks, and it is to advance Russian and geopolitical interests. He has attacked Zelensky, most notably February 28th. He and Vance ambushed him in the Oval Office. He's called Zelensky a dictator. He's talked about money gone missing from Zelensky, and then, of course, he backtracks and everything. But the reality is, he just cut off all intel and he cut off all aid to Zelensky, saying he's going to pause it while they, examine all of it. In other words, what he's trying to do is force Zelensky to the bargaining table to take some deal. And the deal looks like it's going to be something that has to do with minerals for the United States and maybe something too for Ukraine. I don't know. That deal may be changed from what I saw last. It provided a fund for Ukraine to rebuild, but who knows how that's been changed in the last few days. Trump never criticizes Putin. He never condemns Putin. He advanced a UN Security Council resolution which made no mention of Putin's war crimes or Russia's crimes of aggression, and the fact that Russia was in the wrong in this war. He is talking to Russia about business deals, and he's attacking our allies. Panama, Canada, Mexico put on these trade restrictions, these tariffs, as resulting in tariffs from the other side. And as Anthony Scaramucci questioned the other day, and I think it's a valid point, he said, is this going to destroy dollar dominance? And so that is a very good question, and no one's answering because Trump doesn't answer any questions. He just simply does what he does, and he, of course, blames everyone else. So this is what we're seeing coming out of Trump. He's also trying to break up NATO. That's very obvious. If he allies with Russia, if he makes a deal with Russia, then he's going to put Europe in the middle. And right now, he is not supporting the efforts of the world, and it is a world effort, and the efforts of NATO to stop the Russian aggression, to stop the Russian crimes in Ukraine. Add this all in with his defunding of USAID, though the decision just came down last night from the Supreme Court saying that he has to let I think it's $2 billion go into USAID, along with his harming of USAID, the inability to provide humanitarian aid. He suspended prosecution for crimes having to do with foreign corrupt practices, which has been always a hallmark of American excellence. He suspended that. He has also suspended the cyber operations against Russia. He's disbanded any of a number of different agencies that are working on counterespionage, and the list just goes on and on. And Congress is silent, and they cheer him on. And this is very troubling. But again, this goes to what I'm saying. This is the proof in the pudding, and I told you so. Now, he's not the only one jumping in on this attack on the international order, an international order which was created by the United States and the Catholic Church and the United Kingdom. Back in 1945, Pius XII approved the United Nations with its four pillars, as I mentioned before. Well, he's attacking all that, but he's not the only one attacking it. Of course, Vance and Musk are chipping in. Musk gave his speech there February 14th at the Munich Security Council, which it was an attack on Europe. It was an attack on the alliance, and it followed on Musk's demands that Europe give him free speech, whatever that means. Which means that Musk can say whatever he wants to say. And what Musk wants to say is he wants to encourage AfD and other nationalist parties that are going to break up the alliance and make everybody unsafe. That's what Musk is advocating for. That's what he's pushing. Now, there's an ideological component of this, which goes back to Dugin and Russia. And we're going to get to that later, not today. We're going to have another program, and we're going to talk about that because I've been tracing that. I've been talking to a number of people about that, and it's a very important consideration. So stay tuned on that because I think what you will see is you will see that the leadership of Trumpism, the leadership of MAGA, the leadership of whatever this aberration called Trump, Vance, Musk is, that leadership is a foreign alien influence in our society. And we need to track that down, and we need to identify it, and we need to be honest about it. So, okay, so Vance and Musk are attacking Europe because Europe won't let Musk say what he wants. Free speech to Musk means what? It means it's a weapon. It's used to attack and to destroy, not to give liberty, not to give freedom, but to give power to the plutocracy. And right now, it's the tech bros. They're the plutocracy. They're the guys who led the revolution, the insurgency in the autumn, and they're the guys who now want control and power, and they're going to concentrate it, and they're going to work with all of the dictators and the tyrants in the world, and they're going to exercise this control, and they're going to do it in the name of nationalism, which is what Musk and Vance were talking about with the AFD. They're going to do it in the name of religion, which is why Vance is there. He's there to bring religion. And Rubio with a big cross on his head, on Ash Wednesday. He's there to bring religion, bring the Catholics in. Vance is there talking about Ordo Amoris. He's there to keep the Catholics on board. And on top of that, you got a lot of Catholic chatterers who are just falling over themselves, and Catholic thought leaders who are just falling over themselves to support this regime, this Trump Musk regime, which is just spews lie after lie after lie. It is betraying the heritage, it's betraying the traditions, it's betraying the policies, the suffering, the work that so many Americans did for so many years to make the world better, and they're betraying it all. But that's partly because they are very selfish. They're very much into their own power and wealth, and they're narcissistic. They're evil, but it's also too because they're a foreign influence in our country, and this is what we'll talk about. They're part of the Russian doctrinal warfare, which is being waged with great success against the United States, and is making much, if not most, of the GOP, turning them into a Duginist party. Okay, so Musk and Vance are attacking Europe because Europe won't let Musk say what he wants to say. And so they want to fragment the alliance, make it easier for all these countries to be controlled by more powerful interess, by richer interests, by having them fight each other so that they can't work together, and generally to create chaos. The nationalist movements, you have to understand, are tools of control. They're not there to liberate you. They're not there to make your life better. It's a tool of control. And it's going to break up alliances, and it's going to make people fight each other, and it's going to make things much more difficult, and people are going to get much more tribal, and there's going to be much more bloodshed. And all you have to do is look at European history. That's the history of Europe. It's one bloody war after another. That's all it ever was. And then it finally culminated with World War II. And we said enough's enough, and we made things better for everybody. Okay, so this is where you're going. The nationalists think they're getting their little nations. What they're actually going is to a world which is controlled by some authority, which they may or may not know. So at the same time that this is all happening, you also have the talk about religion, like I mentioned. Yeah, the religion is somehow behind Trump and his evil regime, and a lot of Catholics are following. A lot of Catholic thought leaders, a lot of Catholic um, uh, chatterers are totally behind Trump. He posts something about Ash Wednesday. They're just going gaga about it. What you're seeing is you're seeing religions being enlisted to serve tyrants, brutal dictators, and to destroy the very people who think it's going to help them. What we got too going on is this idea that a couple of comments. One is this idea that American exceptionalism is being wiped away by Trump. And Dugin uh, wrote an article February 8th of this year in the Arctos Journal in which he said as much. Now, you have to keep in mind that when Dugin says this is also psyops. It's also infowar. But there's always a little element of truth in this. Okay, Trump opposes This is what Dugan writes. Trump opposes globalism because he rejects any supranational institutions, the EU, the UN, WHO, so on. And like classical realists, he believes that the supreme authority is the sovereign nation state, above which there's nothing and no one. And okay, let's stop right there. That position right there that Dugan just set forth, whether it's true or not, is a position that is antithetical to the Catholic position. Okay? The Catholics, as I have told you, have always believed, or Catholic teaching, I'm not going to say Catholics because for the most part, Catholics don't follow their own teaching because they don't know it. Okay, but the Catholic teaching, the Catholic doctrine, has always been there's a community of nations. And at the beginning of the United States, there was a guy by Aimé de Vattel who wrote Law of Nations, and he basically said, we're a community of nations. That's what he basically said. We have got to get along. And the American founders took Aimé de Vattel to heart. They took his writings to heart. Now, I don't think he was a Catholic, but his concepts were ones that have always infused American policy. And also his concepts of the law of nations are something that is consistent with Catholic teaching, okay, and Catholic doctrine. Regardless of what Catholics say, there's Catholic doctrine. Okay, so then Dugan goes on, this is precisely the meaning of a slogan, Make America Great Again. According to this idea, the U.S. is primarily a great power that must act on the global stage as a full-fledged subject concerned only with achieving its own goals and defending its values and interests. This is savagery. This is barbarism. This is what I've been talking about for months. This is what Dugan and Putin are pushing. This is what Trump and his regime appears to be endorsing. Okay? He is rejecting the Catholic worldview of a community of nations, which we found juridical existence somewhat in the United Nations. Instead of improving and perfecting those organs, Trump is withdrawing from them. He's pulling out of them. He's out of the WHO. He's out of the UNHCR, United Nations Human Rights Commission. And he is withdrawing from the world scene. And he is advancing the language of the enemies of this world order. Okay? This should be very troubling. Trump is rejecting the Catholic view of the world. And he is supported by many, if not most, I can't say all, but many, if not most, of self-appointed Catholic thought leaders and Catholic chatterers. Wake up! That's what's going on. You're getting the one world government, the global order, the new world order that everybody's railed against all these years is coming to you by virtue of Duganist ideology, not by virtue of the globalists. Okay? That's what's happening. Okay. So, okay, those are the key. No, there's actually one more. Okay. Trump's ideology rejects any hint of internationalism or rhetoric about universal human values, world democracy, human rights, and the like. The absolute imperative is America and its prosperity. Complete materialism, folks. Complete materialism. That's what Dugan is saying America is going to. And Russia and the tyrants and the dictators, they don't want human values. They don't want democracy. They don't want human rights. That's why they attack the neoconservatives. That's why they don't like things like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's why they don't like R2P. That's because they want to be able to destroy their people as they want. They want total control over their people. And the Catholic doctrine has always been, you can't be a tyrant. You have to care about the dignity of people. You have to protect human rights. Okay? That has always been the teaching. That is something that America was based on, with individual rights that became human rights that we then put out into the world to improve lives, to improve societies, to protect people. And you see in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, came out in 1948. Not a perfect document, but still, it's a good document. Okay, so about the time that Dugan is talking, there is an article in the Atlantic by David Frum. All right, and David Frum, let me see if I can find this. It takes me a while to find this stuff, so you have to bear with me. Okay, let's see, where is it? David Frum is basically saying in his article in the Atlantic, He says, at least now we know the truth. And this was after the February 28th ambush of Zelensky by Vance and Trump. From writes, quote, we're witnessing the self-sabotage of the United States. America first always meant America alone, a predatory America whose role in the world is no longer based on democratic belief. America voted at the United Nations earlier this week against Ukraine, siding with Russia and China against almost all of its fellow democracies. Is this who Americans want to be? For this is what America is being turned into. End of quote. David Frum is right. And so it tracks with what Dugan is saying. And, Dugan has a doctrinal psychological warfare aspect to what he's doing. But there's an agreement between these two guys in this basic sense that America is losing its exceptionalism, or it appears America is losing its exceptionalism because of Trump. And American exceptionalism was what? It was about thinking about your brother. It was about thinking about your neighbor and not just about yourself and what you want. There's a scene in the movie Gettysburg where Jeff Daniels, who plays Colonel Chamberlain, says, and I paraphrase, there have been wars all throughout history for loot, booty, women, property, but we're fighting for each other. And that is really has always been the essence of America. As I study America and continue writing on America, this is the essence of America. We are out looking for each other. We look after each other. And that's what our whole system has been about. That's what our whole international order that we set up in 1945 has been about. And that was approved by Pius XII. He approved the four pillars. Four pillars are human rights, peace, no aggressive war like Russia started in Ukraine in 2022, developments of peoples, means the spreading of the wealth, and the rule of law. And the church has always been behind, church doctrine has always been behind rule of law. Because law is reason, and if you don't have rule of law, then you got rule of force, and you got nothing but violence. The strong man rules. And America has always stood for rule of law. Maybe not perfectly, maybe we bungled things once in a while, but we stood for it and we defended it. And it's helped people. All right. Now Trump is exhibiting, as you can see from those two authors and from my observations, he is exhibiting this rejection of these basic tenets or principles of the UN or of the world order, and this bodes very ill for everyone. Um, I think that's all I'm going to do for now. This is a lot right here. I want to make a statement though, um, and that is that there are systems and there are principles. Okay, and you know, in the Catechism, it talks about systems. It doesn't matter what kind of system of governments or rule you have, as long as it follows, Christian principles. Um, so what has happened is some bad things have happened, maybe by design, maybe by accident. So then people then think that the whole system is bad, and what oftentimes has to happen is individuals have need to be reformed and improved, and the system can be reformed and improved, but that requires involvement and activity in that system, and that requires something called sociability. Okay, sociability is this idea that we are friendships, that we are in a friendship, that we are friends. This is something the founders understood. The American founders understood. We have to be sociable. We have to be friends with you. We have to look at each other in a spirit of friendship because we inhabit this land together. We inhabit this country. We are all citizens, and this project fails or succeeds based on how well we can get along with each other. But there's an ongoing division in this country, and Trump is causing this division. Very definitely, he is stoking the fires of division. But we must get along with each other. We must have this idea of sociability. And I think that's all I got for today. Thank you.